I think there is a lot of good ideas around the table. And a lot of good ideas in the air. And I think what Rebecca Adams said at the end is exactly right, which is that I think we just need to recognize that we're not exactly where we want to be, and we need to keep the commitment to innovation and learning. And I think with that, I'm really an optimist. I feel that I think it's easy to start with this kind of record of failure and then kind of write off what has been achieved. And I think what has been achieved, as Mr. Singh emphasizes, is enormous, and that the system has done many things that, I think 40 years ago, we had an education system that was essentially designed for and by the elites, and it's an education system now that attempts imperfectly to integrate a population which is enormously diverse and extremely historically disadvantaged. I think the magnitude of the task should never be underestimated. So that says that in the end, it's not the case that we fought the battle and lost. We're just in the opening skirmishes, and there's a long way to go. And once we recognize that and we see that these are just markers for where we need to put in effort, I think there's been, rightly a lot of emphasis on learning outcomes. I think precisely because I think we have won the previous round of battles. I think this is now the right time to turn to this particular question. It needs to have priority. It needs to be central to the next round of our efforts, but that's precisely because we have actually solved a number of problems that even 20 years ago were seen as unsolvable or very difficult to solve. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the conversation where everything was about parents are not going to send their children to school because children are too useful taking cows out. That problem has been mostly licked. If children are not in school, it's not because they're taking cows out, it's because they are bored in school and they're playing with stones outside the school. And that's the reason to focus on learning outcomes, which make school exciting, make school pleasant, make school welcoming. And to the extent that that's where we will move, we'll see that we have now essentially reframe the question. We are no longer worried about, the incentives of the parents, and now we're worried about how we get children excited. It's an entirely refocused question, and that's an enormous achievement just to have come to that question. Now I think we need to take it head on and do it, and we'll do it. We just have to not lose our nerve and not give in to, either complacency or the usual formulae that are offered, which are often just wrong. But I think I think the discussion reassures me that there is both wisdom and energy going into it, and I'm optimistic. So I just wanted I want to thank all of you, but I also specifically wanted to thank the JPAL team that put together this meeting. I am always amazed that something like this, with this many people from this many diverse constituencies, can come together on a given day in Delhi. Some people came from very far away, and that it all happened in a very pleasant and engaged way. So thank you very much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Shobhini, the whole team, for putting this together. Thank you very much, Madhumita.
Thank you. Looking at the time, I will keep my comments very short, and it's actually my privilege to offer the vote of thanks. But before I do that, I do want to say, I think many of us have been totally left breathless today with the richness of the discussion, the presentations, and looking at evidence, beginning to understand the true complexities that are involved when you deal with these kinds of issues on the ground. Before I offer my vote of thanks, I just wanted to reiterate what Bill said this morning. One of the reasons we have organized this workshop is because around fall, around October, November, what we hope to do is actually announce a grand challenge, a competitive grand challenge, whereby we would like to invite proposals that will look at innovative approaches to addressing some of the issues that have been raised today. I think we know the why. We know the rationale why early grade reading is important. That we know. I think what we've accomplished very, very well today is the what. We've seen what works and what doesn't. And I think we've also had the benefit, given the participation of such expert, sort of thought leaders around the room, as to the relevancy and context of India. What we hope to do with the Grand Challenge in fall is actually look at the how issue. So now that we know what works, we also realize from some of the graphs that I think Abhijit presented right up front, that there may be a list of things that we realize work, but in the context of the environment, relatively what will work more or less, and what will really give us the bang for the buck as far as the impact is concerned, is something that we need to look at. So with that, it is with great pleasure that I offer this vote of thanks. First, our sincere thanks to all the participants. We are indeed privileged to have key representation from the government, both policymakers and implementers from the central as well as state governments. And I really, really thank you, Abhijit, to be here. I almost took out a bet whether you'd be able to make it or not, so thank you very much. Organizations that are helping to develop teaching and learning materials. Organizations working with information and communications technologies to enhance and strengthen the quality and reach of interventions. That's a critical area as we move forward, and we try to look at cost-effective, quality-controlled way of delivering. Program implementers, many in the area of early grade reading, that are beginning to provide valuable evidence on what is proving to be effective in the context of India's enabling environment. Funding partners, organizations with expertise in the area of assessment and evaluations that are helping to promote evidence-based programming, the theme of our workshop today. And finally, organizations that are actually providing a bridge between India and third countries by helping to share and transfer lessons learned from India, including successful interventions to help strengthen development efforts in the field of education in other countries. Next, I would like to convey our sincere gratitude to the presenters, the incredible richness that has been brought to bear in the evidence-based programming in the area of early grade reading, most of whom have traveled for this event from far outside India. Professor Abhijit Banerjee, Professor Karthik Muralidharan, Professor Aprajit Mahajan, Mr. Gulzar Natarajan, Mr. Sriram Raghavan, and especially our Ghanaian colleagues, Dr. Stephen Adu and Mamea Netsia, right? Got it right, okay. Who have shared their experience with us. Also, thanks to modern technology, I would like to hail our DVC participants from the US. I'm not sure who's there. We see Rebecca, we see Anne. I think Tony Bloom is there. I'm not sure who the fourth lady is. But thanks to them, they actually had to get up and be there at 6 a.m. in the morning, so that shows the enthusiasm for the subject. Also, many thanks to Dr. Mitch Kirby for coming out from our headquarters to be with us at this workshop. Finally, many, many thanks to JPAL India or South Asia, Dr. Pandey and Ms. Mukherjee and their team, John, Connor, Priya, Jasmine, Sydney, in putting the very informative workshop together and helping us to move forward with an evidence-based development agenda in early grade reading. And to close, I would like to thank Ms. Madhu Ranjan, Ms. Alka Gupta, who isn't here, and Claret has left, for their brilliant support from USAID. With this, I would like to bring today's deliberation to a close. We look forward to your continued partnership and endeavor in this area. Thank you.